Hello, everybody. We are back in 2017. This is the Politics Aside podcast. I am Justin Groenert.
I'm Matthew Neville.
Welcome to a new year of exciting political banter between Lil Matt Neville and myself. We are excited.
You're not even going to call yourself Crooked Justin. Come on.
No,
you're going to drop my nickname, not yours. Come on.
That's how it goes. But I know you're there to drop it for me, so I'm going to give you all of the love there.
I appreciate that.
We're going to mix it up this year. It's going to be a fascinating political year. Yet there are no campaigns or elections in 2017. So we are going to have some guests, and today we have brought in Abdul Shabazz, a man that normally needs no introduction, but I'm going to read one off for you now. He is the mastermind of the Indie Politics blog up in Indianapolis. He is also the muckraker that sends all of us in the know in the State House called a one-pager called the Cheat Sheet. What's the tagline on that, Abdul?
It's gossip, rumor, and blatant political innuendo.
It's and literally
sprinkled with conjecture and wild speculation.
He also is on Indianapolis This Week on TV's Channel 6 up in Indianapolis. He's also writes articles for the State House File. He is a very accomplished man. He is quite funny and as in tune with what is happening in the world of politics as anybody I know. Abdul, welcome to the podcast.
See, I told you guys that it's possible for me to drive south of 465. I don't know why people keep saying it's not possible.
It took a lot of wrangling to get him.
It took a lot of alcohol and tobacco.
That's right. Believe me, my expense account just got a lot worse at Nikki Blaine's.
I'm going to say this: the cigar bill down here might be a little much.
No. He's going to wait till I get back to Nikki Blaine's.
No.
Nikki Blaine's.
We're doing it back in the Empire.
It's what's funny is
not out here on Dagobah. No offense, but we're doing it on the Empire. You know.
For anybody listening to the podcast, all 7 of them now. If you ever want, we're at 8. Nice. We literally, if you ever want to meet Abdul, get his number from me and say, meet me at Nikki Blaine's at 6:00. He will finish. He will either prep for his radio show and leave to come drink scotch and smoke a cigar with you, or he will do it immediately following the show. It never fails. So
it's an art form.
So welcome to the podcast. We've just gotten out of a crazy political year. Give me some initial thoughts.
Well, I always said that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were the only two people in America who could possibly lose to each other. And I was right. She lost the Electoral College. He lost the popular vote. And it has been interesting just to see the reaction and everything. Because I tell people, in politics, this is really simple. The goal is to win. And if you don't win, you deal with the consequences. And usually the other guy wins because he or she gets their people out and they go vote. And guess what? More people came out for Donald Trump in the places that it mattered than Hillary Clinton. And I love all this, what is this Electoral College and where did this come from? The founding of the Republic. It's kind of been here since 1789. No one complained when you won, so you can't complain when you lose. And guess what? 90% of the time, the Electoral College and the popular vote both matched up at the same time.
I will tell you, without doubt, and we have audio, he's complained multiple times on this podcast.
In my defense, I also complained before Election Day. And I said that I was against Electoral College even before Election Day, before anything happened.
You see, but I argue you can't be against the Electoral College without being against the United States Senate, because fundamentally it's the same procedure.
Yep.
For example, the 58 million people in California, they have 2 senators. Wyoming, which has 600,000 people, has 2 senators. The people in Wyoming, their 2 senators can cancel out the vote in the people in California, because in the joy of having a republic where we're not a direct democracy, we don't have the sort of mob rule, and that's just part of the system that the founding fathers came up with. Like I said, 90% of the time the results match up. This is just one of those times that they didn't. And actually, had Hillary Clinton been a better candidate and taken her butt to Wisconsin as opposed to going to Arizona, we'd have a whole different story right now, because she lost by about I won't say the total votes that she lost in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania was about 80,000 votes.
Yep.
You show up, it's a whole different ball of wax.
Was this not a point I made in a previous podcast, Matt Neville? The only person to blame for Hillary Clinton's loss is Hillary Clinton? I believe that was a point I made. Was it not?
I believe it was.
Thank you.
I think we had that. I believe we've had that argument, but
mic drop. That just happened, everybody. I was found right on this podcast for once. Yes.
But those he had to bring somebody from out of town to do it.
Well, no, just to validate it. I had to get some validation.
He needed that confirmation is what he needed.
That's right. Matt, I'm going to let you have the first crack at our first guest of the Politics Society.
I had a lot of notes. I think one of the things that interests me, you being, in the media type, we saw the kind of back and forth that Trump had with Jim Acosta from CNN. I think there's been some concern of, how Donald Trump is going to be treating the media. It's obvious that he's going to be treating it much differently than most presidents have before. What are your thoughts on kind of how you see that going?
Here's my rule. You only get away with that stuff for so long. You really do, because the day is, there's an old saying, you never pick a fight with somebody who buys ink by the barrel, because eventually they are going to get the last word. You always have the diehard 37%, of the Trumpsters who, get all cult of personality, will live and breathe and die by what the glorious leader says. We love the leader is good. But for the other 63% of America, it's going to be a whole different ball of wax. And the day is going to come when your administration is going to screw up, because every administration does. And if you have at least no friends in the media, not to say to carry your water, but at least, treat you fairly, you're just going to get beat up day after day after day, and there's not going to be anything you can do about it because you got off on such a bad foot. Mike Pence, who's a good personal friend, his administration, when they were in charge, they got off to the wrong foot with some of the media people, and that lasted their whole entire 4 years, because some of them decided, the media is the enemy, they don't like us, they're against us, so we'll just put together the enemies list right then and there. I was like, guys, that's kind of a bad idea. To sit down and do what Mitch Daniels did. Sit down, engage people, talk to people, get expectations, met where everybody knows exactly what's going on. And, for example, the Eric Holcomb people, when they first got started, we all sat down, had a on-background media briefing at the very end. We talked about, okay, let's establish what the ground rules are. Here's how we would hope we'd be treated. What are you guys' expectations? And having those conversations early on goes a long way to solving a multitude of problems. But what Trump is going to find is you can only pick these fights for so long before it starts to backfire, because eventually the media will get the last word.
And, on that topic, fake news, I think, has become one of the, I think it's become more of a catchphrase more than anything. I think it's going to end up being one of those things where anything that you disagree with is going to be called fake news.
Fake news is going to be the talk to the hand of 2016. That's fake news, that's whatever. As somebody who's in the media business, for example, and basically what Ellis Sims from was that CIA, National Intelligence report. Should the media have run an unverified report with unsubstantiated claims? I have a bit of a problem with that. That I really do. But I think once Donald Trump started responding to it, now it became news. The media should have never run with it in the first place, but Trump should have never responded. Like I told Justin, we were at the chamber event today. My thing is this: if I'm the president, we do not respond to unsubstantiated claim, unverified reports from unsubstantiated claims, period. And then we just go about our business. But this report says, but it's unverified, it's unsubstantiated. You guys ought to be ashamed of yourselves. At least go track down whatever. So, like I said, but once again, going back to your point, the fake news will only get you. You can't call everything you disagree with fake news, because I know another president who used to do that sort of same thing back in 1974, and he's kind of not here anymore.
That didn't work out very well for him in the end.
Well, part of that, though, is this advent of social media, and what you can get away with there. You made a very interesting observation about Facebook.
Yes.
I'm gonna tee this up to you because it's really perfect.
Facebook and social media is simply the way that misinformed people reach uninformed people. I believe that to my dying day, because somebody will see something, then it immediately spreads like wildfire. Like, no, that's not true. But it's not true. But no, it's not true. I have a rule. It's called the 3-click rule. If it takes more than 3 clicks to get to the story, it's not true. It's that simple. This has all been debunked. Go to Snopes.com. And by the way, Abraham Lincoln didn't say it didn't say the internet is the greatest thing of our time. No, that's quite not possible.
All right. Well, we are 7 days away from the man, the myth, the legend.
At the time of recording,
Donald Trump taking over the reins of the White House. How is this going to go down? And I'm not talking the inauguration, because we all get it. 1201, he takes the oath. I'm talking to first term Donald Trump, go.
I don't think he finishes.
Hot take of the day. Hot take of the day.
I don't think Trump finishes his first term. And not because somebody's going to get all military-industrial complex book depository on him. But when you
soon?
start, but when you start going against the intelligence community and start beating up on the military, it's like, don't go to Dallas. That's on your itinerary. Don't do it, Mr. President. It's like, and no, don't put the roof down. Don't put the top down. CIA's now going to come knocking on you guys' door. What's some guy named Abdul talking about?
Actually, they know where you are. They're not going to come to us.
Yeah, they can find you.
They know where I am anytime. So, Agent Starling, nice to see you again. It took you so long.
So you think it's going to be his choice?
Yeah,
or?
I think probably will be his choice because once you become president, it's a whole different ball of wax. Mr. President, your phone, please. What are you talking about? Give me your phone. Well, you can't. I want my. No, Mr. President. First of all, it's got to be secure. Number two, everything you text, tweet, or talk about is part of the National Archives. So, know, Mr. President.
And that's one thing that kind of came up in one of the confirmation hearings. I think it was it might have been General Mattis that they asked what would happen if Donald Trump tweeted something that was against the current policy. And the essential answer was, well, I would call a cell phone and figure out what happened. I mean, Twitter was one thing I was going to bring up as well, and you kind of touched on it a little bit of, know.
And if you notice, that's something that's really interesting about Trump and his cabinet. Trump's kind of saying one thing, and the cabinet's like, why you listen to the old man? No, Senator, we're fine because, are we going to deport? No, we're not going to deport. Are we going to do this? No, we're not going to do this. What about the wall? Well, we're really not going to build the wall. We'll build it first, and then kind of charge Mexico to pay for it later. There seems to be a certain amount of inconsistency with what the nominees are saying versus the message the president-elect is saying. But then again, I think he's going to find everything to be so restrictive and just his freedom of movement so limited because got to remember, Donald Trump is 70 years old. He has spent his entire life basically doing what he wants to do when he wants to do it. It's a whole different ball of wax. Once I do solemnly swear to uphold and defend the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. We're in an entirely different territory. So I would not be surprised if he gets bored, tired, and just says, 3 years in, hey, Mike Pence, it's all yours.
Interesting. Now, you made a point today, too, that I thought was really interesting. Obviously, Indiana has had a very large role in the 2016 presidential race. And I've made the point several times in previous podcasts that Mike Pence could go down as the most influential vice president, like making Dick Cheney look like Walter Mondale. You see it when Mike Pence becomes literally the head of the transition team.
Right.
Even Cheney didn't get that title. Joe Biden didn't get that title. And Joe Biden is as influential a vice president as we've had too. Talk more about the role as you see it of Mike Pence, sort of from governor into vice presidential nominee to vice president elect.
Well, here's the funny thing. I was said about Mike Pence becoming vice president. Back in Indianapolis, a bunch of people spent a whole bunch of money on signs and billboards that said Pence must go. And he did. To Washington.
We weren't as specific as we probably should have been.
Yeah, you might want to have narrowed that down just a little bit to exactly where you wanted.
There was only so much real estate on the sign. We had to get that message across as clear as we could. We just were not that specific.
Yeah. Pence must go, and Holcomb is Pence 2.0. Yeah, brilliant marketing strategies. Yeah, I'll get to Holcomb 2.0 in just a second. No, but when I saw the Pence must go, okay, and he went to Washington D.C. It is proof what I've always said about politics. It is better to be lucky than good. Because good does not guarantee you success. Luck works every single time, which is why we kind of call it luck. From my conversation with people close to the vice president, is that he and
Jared Kushner.
Kushner, yeah, Donald Trump's son-in-law, they are the grown-ups in the room. They're the ones who are actually keeping the ship of state anchored and on course when Donald Trump starts to wander and meander. Because Trump has like an attention span of 5 seconds. If you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, make sure the last slide's first, because he's probably not going to stick around for the other one. So it's Pence and Kushner who are the ones that are, like I said, are really grounded and are keeping the ship of state afloat. Because Mike's got the legislative experience, his time as governor here in Indiana, he understands the Congress, and even though a lot of people don't like Mike, Mike is not stupid at all. Mike Pence is actually a really sharp guy. I mean, disagree on policy, but he's well-read and well-studied, so he is in his element, and like I said, kind of helping run the show. The two people I worry about are Trump's kids, the two boys, Uday and Kusei, as I call them, because if there are some people who's going to be getting in trouble, watch those two. That's what my spider sense is tingling on those two guys right now.
They'll be the ones that are going to be running the Trump business as well, which
that
its own separate conflict of interest issue there.
Actually, and this will make your day. Who do you think? Okay, it's January 20th. Donald Trump is sworn in as president. Who is the most powerful Democrat in the country?
Chuck Schumer.
Nope.
I mean, well, depending on how far back you go, Donald Trump, but...
Well, but who would you think? I'll give you one more guess. Who do you think will be, after Trump is sworn in, the most powerful Democrat in the country will be?
I don't know.
I know the answer, so I'm not going to say it because he said it earlier.
The Attorney General of the state of New York. Because if anybody will be there to keep tabs on Donald Trump's holdings, and if the kids start engaged in influence peddling, it is going to be the Attorney General of the state of New York.
Good point.
So if I were Democrats, I'd start giving to his campaign right here, right now. Because if anybody's going to be a pain in Trump's ass, it is going to be the New York Attorney General.
He's already done it before.
Yep. Do we know who the New York Attorney General is off the top of my head?
It's
Everybody take out your phones. Google, who is the New York Attorney General?
Eric Schneiderman. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason. I will not take credit for knowing that if the microphone did not pick it up.
Wait a second.
Matter of fact,
Jason pulled that up.
Matter of fact, he's the 65th Attorney General of the state of New York. Ha, so there. Yeah, so don't be shocked if you see a lot of Mr. Schneiderman popping up all over the place.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I've enjoyed the little bit of the press conference that I saw with the mountain of papers that I don't think were ever really addressed and were certainly never really shown to anybody what was actually in there. For all we know, they were just blank sitting on that table.
Well, actually, know what they reminded me of? When I used to work for the Illinois Attorney General, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I worked in our office in Springfield, Illinois. The Attorney General lived in Chicago. So it's about, you drive down, come to the basement of the building, go up the elevator, and, go into his office. And so where my office was, we could always see him, pulling into the underground garage. So what I'd do is I'd just grab a manila folder with some paper in it, and I'd walk to the elevator and make sure that as I was getting off the elevator in the basement, the boss was getting on the elevator. So like, hey, Abdul, how's it going? So whenever he saw me, he seen me with some folders in my hand, think I was going to go do something. It's like, hey, now the boss has seen me. It's 9 o'clock. I'm taking the rest of the day off.
Typical government service.
That's right. I'll do even one better. What you do is you take a cup of coffee, and if it's been cold, just put it in the microwave and set it on your desk. And so that way it looks, when the steam comes out, people think you're still there. Otherwise, the coffee wouldn't be warm. You leave your jacket like on the back of the chair, or you do what other thing we used to do. It's all these bad habits. It was 20 years ago, so can't do anything now. Statute of limitations run through. Yes, we'd be at the bar having lunch. So I go take a long lunch. So about an hour and a half into, we just call the office and page ourselves. So people think we're in the office. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting paged.
Man, I didn't know this was going to be a tutorial. It's about 10 years too late.
We are dropping knowledge here.
All right.
So life in the big city, folks. I'm from Illinois, and I didn't go to prison. There you go.
You might be one of the few that didn't.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah, we do have the Illinois governor's wing at the federal penitentiary in Terre Haute. Now, we were kind of bummed
the food was much better here when you were governor.
Yeah, we almost had Blagojevich, too. I was a little bummed when we missed out on that, and they sent him to Denver. But
I don't know if the hair would have fit in one of those cells. That might have been the issue there.
No, had Blagojevich come to Terre Haute, I'd have been there to welcome him.
That would. I think a lot of us would have,
Rod,
actually.
we meet again. I told you this was going to happen. I told you were going to jail. I told you this back in 2003 you were going to go to jail.
Switching gears a little bit, let's move into the State House. We are 2 weeks into the legislative...
The State House where people don't go to prison.
Yes, on the correct side of the East-West divide. We're 2 weeks in. We have a new governor. We have a new lieutenant governor. We have a new attorney general. We have a new auditor. We have a new superintendent of public instruction. Initial thoughts of the legislative session of the Holcomb administration. Give us some high-level thoughts on how the last 2 weeks have gone and how we think it's going to go.
Well, before we start, I think we should quickly have a brief moment of silence for the Indiana Democratic Party.
Ouch.
Okay, there we go. Now we can talk about what
I don't think that was an adequate moment of silence.
Woo!
In fairness, again, you can't play a pickup game with the Democratic caucus on the Senate side. Still can't. You can play 4-on-4 and have a rotating member, but you can't play a 5-on-5.
Actually, here's a bad thing. There are more apostles at the Last Supper than there are members of the Senate Democratic caucus. I was just like, okay, now this is ridiculous. Like I'm like a moderate conservative, but this is like, this isn't even one party rule. This is like communism. Like whoa, guys, you got to step the game up a little bit. I'm trying to think. he had helmet hair all the time. Tim Skinner, you guys think was he a little bit further north?
He's Terre Haute.
Terre Haute. Okay, that explains it. Yeah.
What is it, Vincennes or Terre Haute?
I'm not sure.
It was one of those two. It's up 41. It's one of those two.
The only difference between the two is there's wheels on the trailers in Vincennes, so.
Ooh, man, we are getting it deep today,
Man.
kids. We are getting it deep today.
Snooty Indianapolis
He is,
people.
he is salty today.
I'm just
I
gonna
don't
say-
know what he had at that chamber breakfast, but he is salty.
It was a lunch.
the
And there
luncheon.
was some chicken. So
Chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans.
I'm
That's
just
salty.
I'm just glad I don't have access to the Evansville Podcast Facebook page to deal with all of the complainers. We have a fairly, I think, intellectual crowd of listeners. We haven't been yelled at too much, so you keep doing you, Abdul. I didn't come
Yeah.
here for the unedited. I want the unedited
I came
version
for
of
Abdul.
Abdul.
I came for Abdul Unplugged.
That's right.
Unedited and unleashed. No, I mean, I think everything's going fine. I mean, people are basically, use the first couple of weeks to lay out, here's our agenda, here's the parameters. You've got the governor going to do his State of the State address coming up on Tuesday evening. So, like I said, there are lots of things, the House Republicans spell out their plan and for road funding. The governor sort of gave a couple parameters. He wants something 20 years long term. Senate Democrats are going to wait Senate Republicans are going to wait to see what the House does. But David Long believes that the roads should be paid for, by the people who use the roads. So whether it's gas taxes, user fees, or whatever. So that is where we are. I think what's interesting, whether it's roads, pre-K, dealing with meth heroin addiction, workforce development, it doesn't seem that anyone has the appetite for what I call the WTF bills. It's the stuff that becomes distractions, sucks all the oxygen, nitrogen, helium, carbon, and uranium-236 out of the room. And it doesn't seem like anybody has any appetite for that. So actually real work just might actually get done, which I find refreshing after the last couple of years. Even though they were friends of mine, I love them.
Yes.
I love them dearly.
Well, and you still kind of see some of the WTF bills as they're filed. I just find it amusing because the way it's being portrayed in local media and in the State House, so there's this bill that Kurt Nicely drops that makes it a felony to have an abortion in the state of Indiana under any circumstance.
The woman
whatsoever.
would be charged with murder.
Yes.
So if a woman,
now-
now listen to this, folks, and I know we're at Evansville, and there are a lot of folks here are right to life. I take the
Right.
approach. I respect that. But think about this. Under Kurt Nicely's bill, a woman who's a victim of sexual assault would spend more time in jail than the person who assaulted her.
Now,
Ponder that.
Now, again, I'm not pontificating on
Yeah.
the bill itself. My point is, it gets reported on that Republicans file bill. Until it is heard in committee, it's a piece of paper. So one guy has a bad idea.
It's a piece of something.
And again, it's not even necessarily the abortion bill that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's the WTF stuff, the crazy stuff that pops up. It's not newsworthy to me, or you can't paint the Republicans or the Democrats, for that matter, with a broad brush when one guy does it until the committee hears it.
yeah.
Once that happens and you have a committee that has passed a bill out, then it's news. Then you can paint people with a broad brush. And yet it happens all the time. And I don't know whether it's because they don't understand the legislative process or what, but when Nicely talked about this bill, you would have thought it was going into law. And I saw it again this morning because it finally hit a bill list and it has a number. And it was in Twitter on 14, I think. I think 14 covered it. And it's like, guys, it's one guy with an idea that is controversial, not the Republicans' way of thinking. And the Democrats do it too. I mean, they have bills that, one guy does something crazy and you're all like, really? That's what you're going to do? But then you guys get painted with a broad brush.
Right.
I wish we could get around that and start pigeonholing some of...
But that's also the curse of what happens early on. The session gets ready to start. The bills get filed. Reporters, we don't have anything else better to do.
Right.
Because that hasn't happened yet. So we start looking at bills like, oh, that's interesting. Children should be compelled to say the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning. I thought this was America. Okay.
I would just love to be able to get away from these WTF bills. Like I know Borders dropped a bill that essentially said that you can't change your birth certificates at all except for a clerical error or some kind of error, and it's mostly geared towards the transgender community, of that you can't change your gender.
Now, in all due fairness, I will say this to some of these guys. I had a conversation with Senator, his name is Travis Haldeman, from up in Northeast Indiana, and he put a bill about religious law, and you couldn't use Sharia law as whatever. Now, Travis and I chatted, and basically a lot of times what happens to these guys, you get the constituents who just bug the hell out of you, who say, no, there ought to be a bill, there ought to be a bill, there ought to be a bill. So, okay, bam, there you go. It's introduced. I'm done. So, unfortunately, because we don't say we do live in a democracy, and though this is the people's representative governments, and Indiana has 6.3 million people, which means 630,000 of them are nuts crazy. There you go.
I know the other bill that kind of caught my eye was, up in Lake County of the bill where they're, one of the Republican representatives up there.
First of all, you said Lake County, so that ought to, first and foremost, should have your Danger Will Robinson warning signs going off there.
Well, the bill that's essentially, it's a special bill just for them, saying that they have too many small precincts and is essentially trying to cut down the number of precincts that they have.
Now, actually, something like that actually does make sense because in Marion County, we used to have about 800 precincts. That number went down to like 630. But because and I don't remember whether Marion County needed special legislation to do it, or they just redrew the precinct map. So that part I can actually understand, because you got to remember, the more precincts you have, the more poll workers you got to have, the more Ds and Rs and inspectors. So we're reducing some of that, making those a little bit bigger and better to manage. Actually does makes sense. Now, my question is, I don't know if Lake County, just because it's not a consolidated county, needs special permission from the legislature.
Well, this bill would essentially create a committee to look at doing it. And my concern is, why are they focusing on Lake County? I went and did the math and looked at other counties that tend to be a little more Republican than obviously Lake County is. And the crux of the argument was that there are too many precincts for the number of people voting. And I did the math, and there are, several Republican counties that have less people voting per precinct that nobody seems to care about. No one's filing a bill for them. It seems to me that this isn't really about, saving a little bit of money. If Lake County wants to save the money, I have a feeling they're going to do it themselves. It seems to be more of just kind of eliminating the places to vote in a very heavily Democratic area.
You see, but once again, though, I don't think you're giving people fewer voting options. Because actually, I could argue with Lake County, you just do voting centers. And bam, there goes half your problem.
Which we do in Vanderburgh County.
We do have those in Vanderburgh.
Yeah, which, by the way, on election night, you guys are very easy to follow, by the way. I just follow the vote centers and all right, Lloyd Winke, yes, my guy, thank you.
We all said the same thing. At least over here we did.
On that side of the table, but...
I actually apparently looked at your vote totals. Quite a few Democrats did, too.
Point to
I'm just saying, that's what happens when you got that Hillary factor going on.
The Lake County bill, it concerned me. Just, it is, and I will give credit, it is a Republican from Lake County. It's not someone just from out of there. But my concern is, if the concern is saving money, then let's look at it statewide. Why is the legislator focusing?
Now, also,
but
also something to keep in mind too, in a place like Lake County, which I want to say after Marion is the second most populous county in the country. You're talking about in a smaller county, you may not necessarily need. You may need smaller precincts because people have just farther to travel. But in highly urban areas, I could see kind of the logic and rationale. Okay, let's make these a little bit bigger, encompass, more spaces so we can, take care of more people in one fell swoop. But like I said, I'm surprised that Lake County actually needs permission from the state to re-precinct when...
Well, it's not clear to me if Lake County is looking to do it or if it's more of just the legislator essentially instructing them to do it.
Yeah. And then also, it depends on where that lawmaker is from, because while the Gary, Hammond, Chicago are Democratic, get outside of Lake County, it's a little bit more Republican, particularly the further south.
It's the southern part of Lake County is where
it's all LaPorte and all that other stuff down there.
I mean, there's always going to be the WTF bills. I think when you have a large group of people that are going to be very diverse in their viewpoints, you're always going to kind of have the WTF bills. But I am happy to see that. I think that Governor Holcomb, it seems to me, is going to be much more of a Mitch Daniels Republican than a Mike Pence Republican. He's not going to be focusing on these social issues, on these things that really lead to a lot of the vitriol that we have.
I want to try to walk into something about that. One, I think you're absolutely right, and I think again it goes back to. It's not the WTF bill. It's the WTF bill moving. That's the problem. You're going to have crazy ideas all the time, to Abdul's point.
Sure.
10% of the state's crazy. It's just the way it is. And they're going to have ideas that a legislator is going to push. I would contend Jim Toms ran for governor in that or to be the nominee for governor because he had constituents that said, hey, you should really think about doing this. I would venture to tell you that a lot of his supporters said you should think about it. And Jim is a very thoughtful guy and will listen to his constituents. And I think that may be part of that. I think to the other point that you made, a lot of Governor Pence, he wasn't really driving the ship. I mean, on the whole RFRA thing, that wasn't a Pence priority at all. That's part of the problem when he got sucked into it. That was born in the state Senate, went over to the House, they pass it, it goes to the governor's desk. He's told basically that it's the federal standard, and essentially it's what it was. And if you read the bill, it's actually what it did. But again, perception's reality more times than not in politics. And it really didn't blow up on Pence until he went on ABC with George Stephanopoulos.
Actually, I'll argue it blew up on Mike when they took the picture with Friar Tuck and the Flying Nuns.
No, you're right. No, I agree. That was the beginning of the end. But really, it ended when he went on Stephanopoulos and had that disastrous interview, and that's when Bosma and Long said, I remember, okay, we're going to put the genie back in the bottle.
All I remember was being up, because I do Indianapolis a week, and we were on right before that Sunday morning. So I finished watching myself. Oh, Mike Pence up next. So I kind of looked and I was like, "Oh, this isn't going to end well."
I got up. I'll never forget it. I'm a Cubs fan, right? Yes, I did it. I'm keeping my streak alive, Jason.
Oh, you're a Cubs fan because you've never mentioned that on the podcast before. You've never mentioned that.
And Abdul, we won the World Series. We did. We won the World Series.
And you know what? So did the Chicago White Sox, but we didn't need a Game 7 to do it.
So my point is, there's only been one time in my life I've ever wanted to put a remote through a television. One time in my life. And again, I'm a Cubs fan. I've seen a lot of crappy baseball. I've had my heart ripped out multiple times. The only time I ever wanted to throw a remote was at the end of that interview because ball game was over. And it was the one time when I don't know what happened because
I will tell you what. Actually, I can tell you what happened.
Okay, because Governor Pence is when he was in Washington, literally the most unsafe place in Washington was not Anacostia. It was between Mike Pence and a TV camera. I mean, but he was so good. That was his deal. And I could have thought, if anybody can put this thing to bed, it's him going on national TV and ending it. And that is not what happened.
Oh, it's not.
No.
He had a rough morning.
Actually, here, my friend, is what exactly happened. First of all, the governor was not supposed to do the interview in the first place. It was supposed to be the speaker who was going to do the interview, but some of the people in the governor's staff got a little zealous and kind of edged the speaker out so the governor can do the interview. Well, that morning, the governor's going through all the the briefing material and getting ready for the interview, and somebody sent him an article where one of the East Coast commentators just started ripping Indiana to shreds like left and right, and that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, that Mike had just lost it and was just mad, livid, like, how could people say this about Indiana, my state? They're not bigots, they're not homophobes, blah, blah. And then that totally took him off his game.
Okay.
That is what happened. You ever see the movie Frost v. Nixon?
Yes.
Remember the scene where David Frost is about to interview Richard Nixon, and Frank Langella, right before the camera comes on, says, "Did you fornicate last night?" And then it throws him totally off at the interview, and then the lights come on, action.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's what happened to the governor. So if you're ever getting ready to do a podcast and you really just want to throw them off, just do something really weird right before 3, 2, I love you, 1, you're on.
Now, fortunate enough with the podcast, we can start and end whenever we want to. And I try to bribe Jason to make me sound better than I normally do anyway, so it works out well for all of us. You got anything else you want to add?
I know that the budget and especially the roads is something, especially on social media, you've been talking a lot. You're a big proponent of the gas tax. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. I know you've been a very big proponent, because I've seen on social media you've essentially said, if you don't like it coming from the gas tax, here's the budget, figure out where to get it from.
Brilliant move, wasn't it?
I like it.
Yeah. I knew you were onto something when I saw Brent Hirschman share it every time you do it. And when Brent Hirschman's on board, we're doing something, you know?
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, okay, we have $1 billion a year annually of unmet road funding. That's to fix what we have, finish what we started, and build the rest of what's needed to be done. It's $1 billion a year. Some people say it's $900 million on one end. Some people say it's like $1.3 billion on the other end. It's $1 billion, period. Indiana has not raised its gas tax. Like I told the folks at the chamber today, as we're having this conversation, the gas tax has not been raised since 2003, when Arrested Development first came on the air.
Good show, by the way.
Yeah.
Fantastic show.
And I'll take you a step further. The couple of other taxes that we have on fuels have not been raised since 1988, when I used to have a really bad Jerry curl.
Can we get a picture of that up on the Facebook page? Can we get one of those?
It was a really, oh, God. Looked like something out of a really bad Coming to America. My father said, get your greasy head off your mother's couch. You'll leave the grease stain in the back like Soul Glow. Yeah. Well, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So remember, and so since the taxes have not kept up with inflation, period. The purchasing power of the gas taxes since 2010 has lost like 30-40% of its buying power.
Yep.
So it's like, folks, this is not something new. This is actually keeping up with what you have, because guess what? The cost of the roads have gone up. The cost of the labor has gone up. The cost of the maintenance has gone up. The only thing that hasn't gone up is how you pay for it. Now, the problem is that Indiana is, let's face it, Hoosiers are cheap. They don't like spending money. And they kept kicking the can down the road. And guess what? There's no more road to kick a can down because it hasn't been built yet. So guess what? You got to build the roads, and you got to maintain the infrastructure, particularly when you're in a place that is within a day's drive of 80% of the population on the planet. Mm-hmm. Indiana is the crossroads of America. And why I like gas taxes is because the people who use the roads pay for the roads. Mm-hmm. I prefer tolling actually even more so than a gas tax. Then you have true person using the roads paying for it. But with a gas tax, you use it, you pay for it. You don't drive, you don't pay the gas tax. It's that simple. Now there are people who say, well, why we just get rid of all these corporate giveaways, then that could pay for the roads. Did the math. That's $90 million. Now you need to go find $910 million. Thank you. And then also, that's why I put the copy of the budget up on. It's like, okay, folks, you say there's nothing, but there's waste and fraud in that budget. I could find $1 billion. There it is. By the way, 62% of your budget is K through 12 and higher ed. Another 10% is your Medicaid. Another 6% is your corrections. This is state police. This is capital. And here's actually your state government. It's a term we call economics called very, very small.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one of those things too. We live in a conservative state. We've been led by Republican leadership since Mitch Daniels was sworn into office, pretty much unobstructed, other than the one weird walkout year. Essentially, what else is there left to cut? They've cut everything they can, and to your point, they've pushed it off. They pushed it off. They've done these one-off fixes. Where you find $100 million, you give it to NDOT, have at it for 2 years or whatever. There's nothing left, and I'm glad to see that finally people in the State House that are, you would think, staunchly conservative have realized, there is a role that the government has for that.
But here's the thing: fiscal conservative does not mean not spend money.
Yes,
fiscal conservative means being good stewards of the public's money, and that means you spend the money and invest the money when you need to, and when you don't need to, you don't spend it. You don't invest it. And your roads and infrastructure, along with public safety, are one of your primary functions, of your government. And once again, for all the people who say, well, the money's there, no, it's not. And now the new storyline is, well, who did these studies? And is there an independent audit? Sit yo. Blank down somewhere.
We did say we did have a bleep option, so if you want to say it, we can bleep it off.
I'll just
be making more work for Jason.
I'll just self-censor myself. Like, seriously, really? I mean, and that's why I said if you don't like the current road funding plan, fine, come up with another one. Right. Otherwise, sit your ass down. Grown folks is talking.
One of the things that too Indiana has.
Sorry to get all ethnic and urban on you guys.
That's okay. Hey, that's all right.
I feel like I'm like maybe like the southwest side of Evansville. I always figured in songs like this, you want to figure where the black people live, look where the white people are moving, and go the other direction. So where's Martin Luther King Street, Lincoln School?
Not far that way.
There you go.
We are not far. Wow.
It's true.
Wow. Yeah. Touche. I don't remember what my point was. I had one.
You were going somewhere. I could see the wheels moving. You were going somewhere.
It's very hard for those wheels to get moving sometimes too.
Particularly when there's no roads.
Right. Exactly. So road funding is one of the big things that the chamber is supporting as well, and we look forward to working, continuing with that. I would be remiss though I remember my point now. So on tolling, that was one of those things that surprisingly is gaining more traction in the State House. During the first task force, which came out of the road funding bill last time. Are you playing chess?
I'm multitasking.
Wow. Matt Neville apparently is not paying attention to a thing that I say on this podcast. What else is new?
Okay, Matt, Queen to Queen's level 3.
I lost my queen 20 moves ago. That's gone.
I can't believe you survived 20 moves without a queen.
Oh, it was a queen with queen trade.
Right. Okay.
I made that happen.
Wow.
I was proud of that.
Okay.
Sounds like my little brother's dating life.
Man, my point seems so irrelevant, not cool anymore.
You're gonna keep forgetting from all these.
I
tangents
know.
going off.
State house tolling.
No. Yeah. But to hear it, Senator Kenley has come a long way on that. And here's the thing. He found out that 25% of the cars on the roads in Indiana are not from Indiana.
Nope.
And guess what? On an east-west level, it's not. You don't need that much gas to get across it. So trucks drive our roads all the time and don't pay a dime to help fix them.
Yep.
So we have to do something
And
along those roads.
Literally, you can drive across the state of Indiana without filling up. So,
Yeah.
And like I said, once again, crossroads of America, within a day's drive of 80% of the population, shouldn't the people who use the roads pay for the roads?
Yep.
It's that simple.
And to Senator Kenley's point,
and
too.
see that. And by the way, and just to pick that, and if you think about it, when people say, "Well, take the money out of the current budget and pay for the roads," basically what you're telling Hoosiers is, okay, all these other people, 25% of your interstate traffic is going to use the roads, and by the way, you guys are going to pay for it. Those guys won't.
Yep.
In the hood, we say, "Negro, please."
The other point to that, and I might have just lost it again because I didn't see that coming, is that to Senator Kenley's point, when you toll, the project is built before you ever pay a toll.
Yeah, you cannot toll.
So you see what your money is paying for.
Right, you cannot toll a project that has not been built. You cannot toll existing roads or bridges, but you can toll additional lanes.
Yes.
You can't toll extra bridges
Or an interstate bridge over the Ohio River.
Yeah.
That's kind of my baby.
Which, by the way, is working so well. They ran out of transponders.
Yes. Oh, and on the east side
Yeah.
in Louisville. I'm talking about my I-69 bridge
Yeah.
down here, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my hope.
Yeah, they ran out of transponders. So, I mean, people understand. Most reasonable people understand that you got to pay for the roads if there's nothing else. And like I said, if anybody out there who disagrees and says, "Well, there's no way to do this," then or this way is wrong. Here's the state budget. Go find $1 billion. And by the way, we'll just take the money out of your surplus reserves. Okay, that gets you 2 years. Now what?
Yeah, I was going to say, and to find $1 billion in year one is not finding it in year 20.
No, it's not.
I mean, this is a long-term continuing problem. This is not a one-year fix. So I'm at least very encouraged by the rhetoric on both sides.
The grown-up discussion.
And I'm actually encouraged that the Senate is not dropping a bill to start with. They're going to let the House run it, and then they're going to make changes, and then we'll fight it out in conference committee, as opposed to having the concurrent bills like we did last session, where House Bill 1001 was Brian Bosma's baby. What I can't remember the Senate number was Hirschman and Kenley's baby, and it met in the middle, and
my money is
contentious.
And my money is they phase in the fee and tax increases over time. Mm-hmm. They make sure they do just enough in the first year for maintenance.
Yep.
Then the second year, it's to finish I-69, 31, and some other projects. Then year 3, it's all the other stuff going down the road, because by then people are used to it.
Yep.
And you've seen it happen, and it's indexed for inflation.
Right. I absolutely agree. And Speaker Bosma, when they laid out their legislative agenda, second day of session, someone asked him, if you lay the outlays out right now, it's $680 million is what it would generate in year one. And his point was, we're talking $1 billion annually over the course of 20 years. Year one, you don't have to fix as much stuff as you will in year 20 or update. So $1 billion a year on average is what we're talking about. So because we don't hit $1 billion in year one doesn't mean we're not going to hit it in year 20, where you're sort of backlogging problems. So again, we've got that going on. We've got a lot of things happening. Do you have any other observations or thoughts, Matt?
I mean, one thing though, get your thoughts. Looking forward to 2018, there's going to be a Senate race. Who do you see coming out on the Republican side?
But who don't I see coming out?
Well, I mean, who do you see coming out of that primary? Because I have a feeling it's going to be a extremely crowded primary.
Luke Messer, his congressman over in the 6th district, Richmond, Wayne County as his contender. Susan Brooks, Hamilton County, Noblesville is a contender. Senator Mike Delph is a possible contender. I'm going to throw Lloyd Winnicke's name out there just for giggles because I like throwing Lloyd's name.
Man, he's not. I'm trying to get him on the podcast at some point, man. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me in that
Throw his name out there. Former Minneapolis Mayor Greg Ballard if he doesn't go work for the Trump administration and Veterans Affairs, is a contender.
Todd Rokita? Thoughts on him?
Yeah, Todd's a possibility as well. Todd will have his congressional seat for as long as he wants it. I think Todd is more. He would rather come back and run statewide.
That makes sense.
Than stay out in the D.C. area.
Okay.
So, but I tell people Joe Donnelly is going to be Joe is not going to be a pushover.
No.
Because number one, Joe Donnelly would be much easier to beat if Hillary Clinton was president.
Absolutely.
Because then you got that, what goes on in midterms. Joe is reasonable. Joe's thoughtful. Joe is very moderate, and his causes have been outsourcing jobs and veterans' mental health. Who's going to run against? I think there should be more veteran suicide. I think more jobs should be overseas. No.
Right.
Good luck. And you can't label he was the deciding vote on Obamacare because he wasn't there when.
Even though Bai wasn't really the deciding vote.
No, Evan was just bad for a number of other reasons. By the way, how does it feel to not have that albatross over you guys' head anymore?
Which albatross?
That Evan Bai coming back and lording his $9 million all over people, telling everybody what to do. Don't you feel liberated?
How much does that he have left? I haven't seen the final numbers. See what he's got left.
I'm not sure he touched his $9 million. I think part of the deal was.
I don't think he was touching the kid's inheritance.
Yeah, I think part of the deal was he wasn't going to touch that $9 million, and that's why he said, "You guys are going to fund it, and I'll do it." How does it feel?
You're free. Join us.
Oh, let's not get carried away.
No, this is like a Lincoln 1865. You guys are free to go. Like, yes. That kind of freedom, not that kind of freedom.
I think 2018 is going to be interesting. I've heard Bouchon's name out there as well. I don't necessarily know if I buy it.
No, I don't.
I'm not going to speak an opinion because I used to work for the man.
No, I think Larry enjoys being a congressman.
I have no insider info. I would agree with Abdul, though. I mean, he's on Energy and Commerce with Tom Price moving to HHS. He moves up in seniority in terms of the Doc Caucus and being sort of one of those faces for healthcare reform and what's going to happen post Obamacare and how the Republicans are going to help ensure those folks that are going to transition off of the Affordable Care Act. Again, if he were to, I'm all in, but I don't get the sense that
is a good transition to the Affordable Care Act and the repeal and then kind of nothing.
You know what I love about this?
Then maybe a replace. Maybe.
Nobody really likes it. It's a fiscal disaster waiting to happen.
Nobody really likes it.
You would hear anybody that's paying into the system hates it. Hates it. Are you kidding me? The only people that like it are the people that can't afford health insurance. I get that. But we were told if you like your doctor, you can keep it. If you like your plan, you can keep it. Do you know how many states have only one insurer? A lot of them.
Imagine if we'd had a public option like the original plan.
Oh, where we couldn't afford it anyway? Really? What's the federal deficit? Please help me out here.
$22 trillion.
Okay, so where exactly do you think that money's going to come from?
Well, it's not going to come from the Republican budget that over 10 years is going to add $9.5 trillion as Paul Ryan has put forward.
Here's what the
only because you're playing funny math with the repeal of Obamacare. Stop it.
Well, actually, because the CBO now can't do the math.
I'm going to let Abdul have the floor here.
Actually, here's what should have happened is when we talk about healthcare. First of all, Mitch Daniels made an excellent point years ago. He said where America went wrong with healthcare and health insurance is when we tied it to your job. Is that had we not tied health insurance to your employer, when you lose your job, you don't lose your health insurance. That has always been something and it was done back in World War II under era of like wage and price controls, as they were trying to keep wages and price at a certain point. Fast forward, 70, 80 years later, the system that works for me, that would have worked for me, is the problem is it's not the people who are employed, they've got their health insurance. It's not the people who are on Medicare or Medicaid because they're too poor. It's those people in the middle. And what the federal government should have done was basically like the Healthy Indiana plan, except I call it the Healthy America plan. Had that been the model, you solve a multitude of issues because people are covered. And also they get their like little mini sort of health savings accounts so they can save and kind of pay for their own health insurance and have some skin in the game. And HIP 2.0, there's a job, assistance training requirement to help people become sufficient. And what's funny is the federal government under the Obama administration, the Obamacrats, as I call them, hated HIP 2.0. And so the folks at the Center for Medicaid and Medicare did nothing but be obstructionists as they were trying to get it done. And now SEMA Pharma, the person who was the author of HIP 2.0, is about to become their boss. God really does work in mysterious ways. I mean, that's how we should have done it. Now, in my perfect world, we treat health insurance the same way you treat life insurance, car insurance, fire insurance. You go buy your own policy. But I do believe, and sometimes this makes my conservative friends mad, I do believe that it should be mandatory, that everybody has to have it and everybody has to carry it. Now, just like car insurance, now you go buy the plan that you think works best for you, because the rest of us should not have to pay for your trip to the emergency room.
Right. In the way the system's currently set up, though, you're limited based on state lines. So if Anthem is the only one in your state, there is no competition and no incentive for them to give you a decent rate and a decent plan, which is why most people have premiums that are outrageous and crazy and monthly bills that are $500, $600, $700 a pop.
Now the trick is, because I was
which is not affordable. I'm sorry, I hate to tell you that, but it's not.
Oh, that's my monthly cigar budget.
I know. Well, that's because Abdul is a wealthy man. Some of us aren't.
Work for a living. I think the thing is, and the only problem I have with selling insurance across state lines is if you have a problem, how do you get it resolved? Is if you have, let's say, I buy an insurance policy in Nevada, and somebody doesn't want to pay XYZ. Okay, so I call Nevada. And the Nevada Insurance Commissioner says, well, your policy is in Indiana, so you got an Indiana problem. Okay, so I go to the Indiana Department of Insurance. Well, that's Nevada. So we have to reconcile,
right.
How do we...
And again, it's not to say that all like that, we're going to snap our fingers and you're going to do it. There's going to have to be things that we can do.
Yeah.
But it's not out... That should not be a barrier to getting that done. I think there are market forces that can make this work much better than the government shoving it down.
And it's the other problem.
Insurance throats.
And the other problem with our insurance issue, or with our insurance policy, has always been nobody knows how much stuff costs until after it's done.
Right.
Perfect example. My wife was in a car accident about 2-3 years ago. Massage therapist broke her wrist in 3 places. There went half my sex life. So I just had to throw that in there. Weren't expecting that one. You guys never had a podcast quite like this before?
I can tell you, this is a first for us, but I like it. You're setting the bar high for guests, though.
Probably never will again.
We'll see. This may actually help us. I don't know.
And so, it was a textbook fracture, 3-4 places. Like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can find something out. So I just called a few hospitals in Indy. Like, hey, my wife broke her arm. There's nothing complicated. How much would it cost to fix it? Nobody knew. I'm like, okay, I can call my mechanic, kind of tell him what's wrong with my car, and he can pretty much get within like $100 of what's wrong with my automobile, assuming there are no other problems with it. No, I can do it for my computer. We can do it for the equipment in here. I can do it. The cell phone company can pretty much tell me, Abdul, it'll probably cost you, XYZ to fix this. But health insurance, nobody knows how much stuff costs until after it's done. And then somebody else is footing the bill. So nobody knows how much it costs. Somebody else is paying for it. And then we wonder why the prices are going through the friggin' roof.
Right.
That's why I say American healthcare, it's enough to make you sick. One of my brilliant columns that he wrote.
All right. Well, we are almost at that hour. Do you have any closing thoughts here?
This is the most fun you ever had with your clothes on and standing up?
We're sitting down. I want to throw that out there.
Okay.
I have laughed a lot. I will say that. This has been quite enjoyable.
Oh, why you got to be dropping that in?
Is it Matt Neville's birthday today? All right. Well, happy birthday, buddy. I'm not going to sing. Sorry. That's not just going to thing.
On behalf of everyone, I did have one one listener request, wanted to know just how tall is Eric Holcomb, because in that picture with him, you look like a child in that thing. How tall is he?
He's 6'7".
Yeah, Eric's a pretty tall guy.
He's a really tall guy. I'm taller than Janet. So yeah, it's the first lady who I'm referring to. So for background on the photo, he was sworn in on Monday. They had an open house. We could walk through and shake hands. And there's a photo on my Facebook page with the governor that I look really short. I'm 5'9". I'm not that short. I'm not tall.
He towered over you.
He's a good almost foot taller than me.
Man.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever gone as Harry Potter for Halloween?
I have not.
Because you look just like Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm not putting them glasses on.
Put the glasses on.
Not doing it. Not doing it.
Do it. Do it, Neville.
It really does. It's just about it. It's like
I'm staying on principle here. I can't do it.
So more like sitting down on principle.
You turned that back on me. That was nice.
That's the ultimate mic drop to end this podcast. Everyone, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Abdul, thanks for coming. I hope you had a good time. We'll have you back hopefully sometime soon. If we ever get you south of Whatever street in Indianapolis.
South Street.
All right. We'll get you back down here again.
If you get me south of the Lucas Oil Stadium, there we go.
All right, very good. Matt, you got any closing thoughts?
I'm good.
Happy birthday, brother.
Thanks, sir.
We will have another podcast here soon. If you have any thoughts on guests, shoot Jason a note, and we will see what we can do to make those happen. Thanks again for listening. We hope you're having a great day.